Cool. So I've been having some thoughts, and here we go. Mind you, okay, before I talk, this is like a work in progress. All of it. So there's always things that change throughout the process, which probably we as a collective could reason out more readily and more rapidly than I individually can, uh, if just simply seeking like connections. So this is kind of where I thought I'd start recording and talk about some stuff. Maybe before I go into this, so to go back, I'll go back a little bit. So to kind of set the stage for what I'm gonna say. Maybe I'll open up Google Maps too. Let's type in Himalayas. Sure, why not? That'll do. Okay, pardon me as I remove titles, labels. Okay. Okay, what am I gonna say here? So, I've been researching recently, looking into the Himalayas. Obviously, they're pretty significant land feature on the Earth and unique. And so here I am looking at this, and the other day, in recent times, I've come to the conclusion that there's some kind of Shalogram. So to just go back, a shalogram is one of these crazy things, which I believe are not fossils. They're considered to be fossils, or caused by the presence of like the what once had a fossil. Not fossils. These are actually particles that stably form like atoms between the two chakra points, and then they can literally, from due to energy flows at, let's go back a little further, that the earth expanded, and it did so by a supernova event due to ether energy entering the earth, causing a instability and what appears to be a cascading event of supernovas of particles such as this one, where the flow of ether energy around it caused basically the particle itself to become so, like the region to become so volatile that the particle could essentially begin to rotate in the matrix of the less dense particles, because essentially it's surrounded by atoms that are of a different scale, where the particle that's there, let me bring up an actual particle, like this particle, this particle, this particle, the particle that's there is of a different scale than atoms, and so it basically but it behaves like a particle, and it when the ether flows occur around it, insert throughout the earth, when the earth supernovaed, it essentially caused vortices surrounding these particles, like let me go to Damodar Kund. So even on this scale, we see a shalogram feature, and then also this. So there's this stuff going on. I would recommend watching my other videos, where the shalogram ones. Pretty much every video, honestly. What can I say? Get caught up on what I'm even talking about, why I'm talking about the things I'm talking about. I'm like, I know I'm not like absolutely unequivocally correct in anything I say, but we as a collective can certainly figure it out, and I'm definitely on to something. So like this is not something that I've ever heard talked about, like that this happens. And it even has these smooth edges down here. This clearly has what a shalogram does, where it has layers like steps in it like this. It clearly does that in this rock feature, and therefore this is a shalogram, and therefore shalograms are not fossils. They're caused by vortexes of ether energy that basically goes between layers and then flows around the particle and carves out the less dense regions first until essentially the particle is free, and then it basically is like alive, but they can supernova because it's a cascading radioactive decay of all the particles where they just start decaying by doing this, by transmitting ether energy from particle to particle to particle, just chain reaction through the layers until a new equilibrium was achieved in essence. And one of the steps was basically a particle, which I'm starting to feel maybe it was more up here, supernovaed. But just like the Earth overall supernovaed, the Earth supernovaed at 66 million years. That was when so there was like a slow supernova half, like the first half building up to iron kind of thing, and then the second half post iron kind of thing was a fast supernova, and the first half was really up till 66 million years, and then at 66 million years, boom, all these things happen, and that is globally, and that is Chicxulub, Shiva Crater, Deccan Traps. I just found out Wind River mountain range in Wyoming, also 65 million years, that time frame. Himalayas have 65 million year as a part of like there, and then they form the after. A lot of things are in the time after the supernova as like a fast chain reaction occurs. And so I was thinking like there's a particle over here that's supernovaed. Here I was thinking maybe here it's supernovaed, but it really, if there's a particle here creating a shalogram opening, where it's essentially doing the same thing as this image here. What was I just talking about? Yeah, here. But instead of it creating like a void of that has air in it, instead it created like a a fine graded material relative to the surroundings. So it kind of like separated the dense materials and left behind a very cavernous like desert where the biggest systems in the region are pretty subtle relative to like over here where there's big systems like mountains. So like desert, subtle things, big systems, separation. And so this probably, and coupled with this, these two probably are shalogram related, although I'm not sure if they are directly associated with this. It looks, I'm going to go into it in detail, what I've been finding, because I just saw some things that really like totally changed what I've like the depth of potential of what can be said about this. So let me go back to, I've been posting a lot that stuff. Here's what I think like generally is happening is like there are literally particles that form under the layer. Like this is the top side, and then above the particle here is a hexagonal feature that even extends like multiple layers, but it's broken off. Like the way this formed is related to that there's this big particle here counter to it producing like a support system or a connection through to the other side. And this also, that was a iridescent turgite from Russia. Oh, so this is from Russia. Iron rich supernova, which Russia certainly got some evidence of in its surroundings. So this is kind of how I picture it. Like there's literally polygons. This one's not quite as good. This one. Oh my god, this one. There's literally polygons. So this is kind of like Venus maybe, where the polygons are all so adjacent to one another that they're really essentially one surface that just has like boundaries between the polygons, like they're different materials, so then there's a boundary that forms, and then energy flows and can propagate down the boundaries. And there's probably actual bonds, like this can bond a certain amount of times with its surroundings and so on based on the shapes that really produce like the chemistry and things of that nature. Because the way I see it is like Earth literally could be like a molecule where each block is a certain specific atom, that the atom is not here, it's actually like this, like that. Imagine that's like a atom, like a carbon atom, and it then supports a certain region of the crust and therefore bonds with adjacent segments that then are essentially its chemical bonds, and it folds. So like something that can just that can have a certain number of bonds, also they also physically fold to create like a sphere or like a certain polygonal spherical type of shape that's more stable by folding in on itself. Essentially like they form a cup, like the Cloudinas. They form cups like this, but they can fold in on themselves and produce actual particles, perhaps. That seems likely. Now I'm thinking of this. This is also this cup, the basin. So this is considered a basin. So it's like a bowl that holds all this sand, kind of like a cup, like one of these big old cups, a big old cup. Possibly one carved out, though, more specifically by a vortex. And interestingly, so I posted about that. So this one actually shows kind of like here sand. So here there are like the continental shelf where there's land masses that are like whatever. And then the internal pressure, let's say, of the earth from systems working their way within somehow. Maybe there's some energy flow that was pulling material in a crack and just putting pressure on the connections between between this and essentially physically causing a outflow of, although this rock is probably shaped, but still, like that general process, causing an outflow to fill in the gaps, like the oceanic crust, basically. So this is, to me, like this is probably a good representation of the oceanic crust because it's like large particles that are maybe more dense, generally speaking, where these are more like composed of subtle particles to a degree where they make up units that are then like one unit. So even though they're not as dense, they're units. Where these are really small comparatively, all none of them are connected. Very separate. Okay. So I was hoping, I could have sworn I must have talked about it in these posts. I must have. Let's go down a second here. So I said, I'm already disagreeing with what I've said. So this is common. It's okay too. Like, it doesn't mean I'm utterly wrong and this path should be uninvestigated. Okay. So with that said, I kind of took it like this, and I believe this is generally true, that this behaves like this. Whether or not it's because it was caused this way by a particle right here supernovaing and producing this wave, I don't think so anymore. But I think the outcome of that this is a shalogram having a vortex that was caused to flow, causing the less dense subtle particles here to be separated into this region and more dense materials to be moved away from here. If that happened, and separately another event that I'm going to talk about caused this, then, and as well as the Tibetan Plateau, then it still, as I will talk about, still literally behaves like an anode, which anode, so like a void. I might have talked about this already now that I'm thinking about it. I know for sure I talked about those rocks, but I just talked about them anyway. But I'm just going to talk about all this anyway, because there's so much more. And I'm probably still just kind of scratching the surface for sure. And it's so much information to go through though. But so if this is like a particle that's supernova, let's say, becoming like a void maybe, and then this region is just kind of low density, behaving like a low density, so it's like an anode in essence. And then over here is a very high density, like elevated, and as I'll go into, let me find it. The region, if we look at the mountains, they generally, the snow caps, they don't go from India and then dendritically branch into Tibet. Instead, they generally dendritically branch into towards India. Pretty much the whole length is into India, with the way the dendritic formation of the mountain chain occurred. So it's got a propagation of energy into India based on the snow-capped mountains that reveal where the most mass flowed, the most energy flowed and propagated and caused an uplift, and therefore it produced this dendritic feature that is visible in the snow capping of the mountains. So the whole way, really, like if there's really not like this way branching in, like it's subtle over here, branching into more like substantial features, like the energy flow. So with that in mind, there's this. This doesn't show it. Oh, here it is. Anode dendritic features branching towards a cathode. So these have a cathode feature and an anode, which I believe makes sense. Whether or not it's directly correlated with the why they're dendrites, I'm not sure anymore, because of what I'm gonna say about how I feel the Himalayas were caused, which makes it kind of draw into question if they are really like related as an anode cathode membrane. I know it sounds ridiculous to people who doubt me. But still, it does have the dendrites inward, and then the opposite, so we can kind of see dendrites branching into the Tibetan plateau of the like reliefs. Those are the ones that go into are the reliefs. Which would suggest, also going back to this. Oh no, not this. This. Which is from here. Thermodynamic origin of dendrite growth in metal anode batteries. So this was about batteries, so I started looking. I was like, maybe I can do something useful for once. Maybe I can actually be useful and figure something out. I did actually spend 7 years almost in the patent office in batteries and fuel cell technology. I don't really technically know much, especially not after all this. I don't. Last time I thought about it, it's been a long time, but maybe looking at it again, I could. That was kind of what I was thinking. So I did find this to be interesting. 3 ways that lithium dendrites grow. So generally, they've been thought to just grow. Apparently, like when using a battery, it will over time grow dendrites, and especially. Let's see. The growth of spiky dendritic crystals on the surface of a lithium metal foil anode during charging of a lithium battery is well known among battery researchers and engineers. So this just occurs. It's hard to essentially it makes material reach across the membrane and cause a discharge into the cathode. It's not a short circuit. They just lead to short circuits. They probably also reduce the efficiency, I'd imagine. Let me let them explain rather than pretending like I know what I'm talking about. According to new research at Washington University in St. Louis, however, it may not be as well understood as had been previously thought, despite the phenomenon being well known. This is just it may not be as well understood as had been previously thought, despite the phenomenon being well known. It doesn't matter how well known something is, it doesn't mean it's as understood as had been previously thought. And that's very, very common. not to, not to linger on that too long. It turns out that there are three distinct types of dendrites. The types that form depends upon the type that forms, probably types, but like at some point they appear one way or the other or significantly in the middle. The type that forms depends upon how much. Pretend like I know what I'm talking about. I figured it was a one way, not and then not really dendrites, but then I wasn't sure what their third option would be. It was in the middle. Okay. That's not to spoil the secret of what the three dendrites are. Depends upon how much charging current is passing through the battery cell. Yes. Okay. Okay. Besides the point. Mai's team has identified three. Okay, let's go up here, actually. Till now, scientists have been trying to find ways to reduce or eliminate the formation of dendrites. Okay. Probably let's go a little further back, because I was thinking they were just talking about generic things. Here we go. Batteries of this type avoid the formation of dendrites through the use of a layered carbon graphite anode that can store lithium ions between the carbon atoms in a process called intercalation during. Okay, I vaguely remember this. That's how little I actually remember of. I was just text searching. That was my job. Certainly prepared me for this. But that's just how it is. That's just how it is, you know. That's why we need to work together. At your guys' leisure, of course. No rush. I don't want to start any like end times or anything by getting noticed too readily or too rapidly or too extensively. You know, just enough maybe to participate in something would be cool. Beyond just sitting here and wondering if I'm ever gonna make another dime and how the hell I'm gonna do that if so. I mean, it's struggle. I need that dude's on some shit. I should probably make sure his taking some notes. I mean, shit, make sure that flow, that tapping, stopping, shit. I mean, we don't want that to stop yet. Looks like it's flowing pretty good. Seems like it might stop soon, though, I don't know. Let's be honest. Okay, batteries of this type avoid them during charging and release them during discharging. Oh, yeah. Carbon graphite anode. Carbon graphite anode. I wonder if that would behave like the ocean floor. In some way. I don't know. During charging and releasing of them during charging. But the graphite anode can only store so many lithium ions, limiting the energy that the battery can provide. The use of lithium metal foil instead of the carbon as an anode provides a much greater supply of lithium ions and up to 3 times the energy storage capacity. So we want to use just straight lithium. We don't want to mess around with this porous, like intermittent lithium. We want just the pure substance of lithium with just a sheet foil, nice surface area exposed, thin. But we don't want like porosity, I guess, is maybe a key. Like it's useful as a substrate to have this, but it just reduces the efficiency. So we're trying to figure out how to stop this dendrite problem growing on these lithium metal foils. Lithium plates when charging the lithium plates in an irregular manner onto the metal foil surface. We gotta figure out how to get this lithium to deposit better so it's like truly like. It's probably just a lack of. It's fucking that we're using electrons. We gotta use subtle energy, dudes. We gotta figure out how to control enough ether to be equivalent to a electrical current, because then it's just subtle energy. It's like a wind versus being hit by a single brick like the total force was the same. Like if it's well distributed, it's probably gonna have a more balanced force, like needles laying on a bed of needles versus like stepping on a needle. Like total different outcome. Same kind of thing, and both putting weight on or nails, I meant. I said needles. As I don't know what I'm talking about. And if you call them all dendrites, you're looking for one solution to solve actually 3 problems. Okay, so we got a spectrum. That's good. It's kind of like if you call them all elementary particles, you're looking for one solution to solve actually a spectrum of things that are not accounted for. Which is impossible because there's a spectrum of things that are not accounted for, not a single elementary particle that's not accounted for. That's why after so many years, this problem has never been solved. 3 types of dendrites can form. Probably a spectrum, and these are like equilibrium points that are basically like it's pretty much all one way, all the other, or like vibratorily between the two in a chaotic vibrational state, maybe. I don't just like because it's like let's see, Florida carbonate. I think that was the right search term. Ew. Oh, we got trilobites here. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh my god. Pardon me, 1 second. But I want to view it. Okay. Whoa. Like, is this a particle supernova? Where it can't, maybe it had like a upward wind going on. That could be what those are. Like big particles exploding. Like that's like the surface of the sun. How incredible it probably is too. That's actually probably like the surface of the sun. Could this like not be there? I just don't want it to be asking me to sign in or anything. I just want to look at the picture. Oh my god, it really does look like the surface of a star. Okay, cool. Good to know. Let's move on. Maybe look at some more before I conclude that so readily. Sunspot, dudes. Oh, that's someone's foot. Okay, okay. I thought this was a person here. I was like, that's incredible. But what is this then? It still looks like a sunspot. It probably is. Like, what the fuck? Is there a big particle there? Oh my god. I need money so I can move about. Maybe just walk out. I'm going on a journey. It's all God's will. Do. Go. Oh, there's some alligators there. I guess I should have realized that there's. Where the hell am I? Oh my god, there's features like this here. I've never seen anything like this in Florida. It's just like flat. It's maybe some up ramp type thing. Nothing like that I've seen. Uh, Winley. Oh, ooh, that's like the things at that other place. Bighorn Basin that Myron Cook in one of my other videos I reacted to his video. And I said we'll at some point I said we will and I said he and then I said we will but I said will like we'll find out. And it sounded like I said he will find out when he already was well aware when he was saying the things he was saying when I said that. So it wasn't like I thought that he just cleared the record. I was a little worried. I was like, I don't want to offend people. I know I offend so many people. Pardon me. Pardon me. This is my life. Pardon me, sir. He's on it. He's giving me vibes of not vibes of of a different tone of geology that doesn't rely on radioactive decay but relies on natural philosophy. It's like a natural philosophy, classical mechanics, geology feel to this video here, where I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling this way of analysis. I mean, radiometric dating, sure, we can use it to like make sure we're like zeroing on nuances after certain things, but like the philosophy side of it is critical. It's nice to see it in a geological sense where I don't know if I've seen it so philosophically presented. Because it really is just straight, well, based on these observations, that means that here's a line of events that could produce that outcome, and it's, you know. uh, these look like little supernovas, like ripples outward. That kind of separated too, even left behind like a Tibetan plateau before the Himalayas. Uh, they're so cool. These are boulder opals from Australia. This one's incredible. It literally looks like the sky. Oh my god. It's tiny. It's so, like how big their fingers are. It's gotta be like a half an inch long. This is probably the best view of it, is to literally see an enlarged image of it. Oh my god. Literally looks like clouds in the sky, or like also like kind of like nebulas in this galaxy. And also, it's backed by like a support structure. Totally different. Like a uniform side. Maybe, although, no, it's hard to say when they polished it what the rock was like beforehand. Like if this is in a matrix, that's probably a common thing. So I don't know this. I literally don't know this. The gems are like found in matrices commonly. Like that the matrix is the surrounding like galactic disk of the like more substantial particles of the like crystalline structures that form larger polygonal chunks of, because they're connected as one system essentially. Like this is one, like it doesn't have this shape just by happenstance. Like it has that because it is a connected system on a degree where it's not as connected to this adjacent part at all. Like they're literally not as connected, but they're still more connected with one another than with the air and so on. And then they're commonly on like a base, a matrix, or found in a matrix, which suggests that they're like a nucleus. Like these crystals are like nuclei of, maybe they're molecules on some scale, depending on what the particles are, what the systems are. Okay, let's go back though to some more about this place. Tamir Basin. So this is sinkholes. So water clearly drains down into a actual reservoir basin region like they would occur if it drained into a rock like this. There would be a puddling at the base. And then it also is highly karst highland. Karst highland. And karstification. I don't know if this shows it. Karst basin. Exactly what is the karst? I'm not sure. Karst, though, karst. So it's pretty much cave. So it is like this is the opening of a shalogram. I would say that confidently. I can. That's something I feel I won't change so rapidly. The conclusion on as like what caused the Himalayas exactly. But so the Tamir. Let me just get to the Himalayas by going through Tamir Basin real quick. This has all these drainages. I mean, clearly the subtler particles, the units, the more uniform sea of particles without large intermittent particles, kind of like plants hold like if you in literally they have a road somewhere here they build across this, maybe even across this way. I don't know why they do that, but they build it I assume this way. And to keep it together, they literally plant plants along these sides so the sand doesn't as easily move over top of it. And so they're creating like like a nucleus system there to hold the ground, to stabilize it, and bring it pumping water up from underground. And so, what was I talking about? Yeah, so the sand doesn't have that. Like the sand itself needs larger particles, intermittent, like boulders. It needs boulders. It needs bigger than boulders, like huge systems, intermittent, like the cores of mountains, intermittent to basically solidify the terrain. And because it doesn't have that, it just has a bunch of like subtle, less dense material. It's more porous, more cave like, more transformed into this type of setting where it's, I mean, I don't know if it's like that exactly because that's Slovenia. Doesn't even show it on this one. Whoa. Global distribution of major outcrops of carbonate rocks. This will make sense more if I get to what I'm talking about. So why? Okay, so that's basically what I just said, and then a little more. The other side actually is more like this side than like this, so it's got more like solidity to it, more of the structure of the crust is more held intact with, and so on, with openings still, but not, and a big opening, the Gobi Desert. And then here, many anomalous occurrences in the Tamir Basin of snow and hail in July. So I found this interesting that there literally is a paper about this. I think I talked about this. I feel like I did. Sorry, I'm just recording constantly. And then here, like if there's essentially something where there's a tendency for the energy to flow, it would along the edge. It would flow along the edge more so. So I found it interesting that this storm was very much here. The dust storm. And I mean, there are certainly several storms that are not there. So I did selectively post this one. Admittedly, I saw like three others, or two others at least, that were possibly also related to locations. Like one was here. I just didn't really bother to look into it. So I don't know how frequent they are, where they tend to be. Like I didn't look into it like that, but I'm leaning towards there's probably a tendency for them to have physical locations that are related to Shalogram energy flows, because that's what happened. And then I don't know how I feel about this anymore. Like, essentially a particle supernova, and I thought it was from weight from above, causing the Himalayas to kind of ripple out that way. Which to me makes a lot of sense. Like there was a particle here. There's a bunch of weight on of water basically accumulating here, although I just don't see evidence for it. So that line of reasoning I might actually fully disagree with soon, to the point where like I'm not sure that that's true. I said water flowed out from here in my Dwarka video, Secrets of Mount Gurnar, across here, down here, and then came here, producing a wave. And then I modified that by being, well, and then its weight as it moved pressed on a physical particle here that was like this, but sideways. So like this, the water physically was pushing on it, but it also was pushing on it kind of like this, where it was imbalanced, not as much on the front end as on where the bulk of the water was behind, and then the particle that was like a pillar relative to the surroundings supernovaed, and that's how it supernovaed, was the weight of the water. I don't know if that's true anymore, to the point where I think that's false. And actually, the reason why I've yet to get to. So maybe this still, but I'm not sure. It does kind of actually provide a possibility this way. But once I get into... I guess, where is it? Here it is. Okay, let's do this one. So this is... Maybe I can grab that. This is the Earth's magnetic anomaly graph or grid or something. So this is where the Earth's magnetic field is either anomalously high, which is towards the red or purple, anywhere it's elevated, and then anomalously low is towards the blue and black, and dark blue and dark black. And it's kind of hard to see. It's really freaking hard to tell. Here's in the tip of India. Here's Sri Lanka. It's a pretty good spot to kind of like pivot off of finding where things are on, because it's so subtle here. Here's Myanmar. I'm starting to learn the places as a result. But I looked at this and I was like, whoa. Whoa, dude. So initially, let me go through my chain of events, because they're not, I've already adjusted my, because it's literally, it's so hard to tell where, like, where is this? I can't click it. I can't zoom in on it and be like, okay, now I know where it is. Like, the only way to pinpoint this location is off of a border. So, like, the closest borders are out here. Like, here, let me pull up this. Like, for sure I can pinpoint this structure here. But, which kind of puts this, like, generally maybe here, just at first glance there. But it's very difficult to pinpoint, to the point where I've done this like 4 times, trying to actually, until I mapped it. I was like, alright, I'm just going to start labeling. So let me pull up my attempts, maybe. Himalayan. So this was my first attempt. As I said, here's the particle that exploded from the pressure, water. So essentially I was initially thinking when I saw this, okay, maybe somehow the water came over here, applied a pressure here, specifically on this particle, a particle that's generally here, which then exploded out this way, but it carved still, like it couldn't quite go this way, so it pushed up a wall even, and kind of got deflected somewhat this way. That's initial. So this is my initial line of reasoning. Which is useful for just kind of getting a bearing on what's going on, because this is utterly not even true. Like, these labels are wrong. So I thought, like, okay, based on this, the way I tried to pinpoint it was incorrect. My approach was based on the magnetic anomalies. There's like a beginning of what appears to be an arc here. There's a curious little like intersection here, and then the rest of the arc over here. So this is the Himalayas. So I drew it like that. Not true. Not true. Crazy. It really made me be like, wait a minute. This this adds detail. It really shines some light on some potentials that I just was not picking up on before seeing this. I mean, I'm not like so set that there must be a like for everything I've said to make sense. Like there must be a supernova of a particle at this position, creating a arc here to therefore like it's not so much that way where there's some potential for some more buried treasures in the rough here is what I'm getting at. So, like, how do I pinpoint this? So finally, like here, okay, this is the Arabian Peninsula. Here's Saudi Arabia, and so on. Sorry, guys. Yemen maybe is here. I'm not even sure. I know, like, I should know where Yemen is because they're just getting fucked. Yep, there's Oman. Yemen's over there. So they're pretty much half and half, split down the middle with this section of the United Arab Emirates. Okay. I see. So, some of it's not mapped, obviously. Also, that's kind of unfortunate. Looks like Yemen entirely is not mapped. Maybe that's part of what's going on is, like, Himalayas are just hard to map. So, in Myanmar is not, like, like, just can't map it, maybe. Because it requires proximity to the Earth to being allowed in the territory. Being allowed in the territory to map it. So, let's go back here. I noticed, my thought was, okay, this looks kind of like a X marks the spot where the particle was that exploded. It sent energy this way, which then did like a magnetic field. So let's Earth, no, or like just like currents. Let's pull up a currents. Currents. Ocean currents. Ocean currents. There we go. There we go. Whenever they collide, they just branch off, and this is how magnetic fields work. Here's a good one. Not the biggest one, but it's still a good example. Here, so it comes up, the energy's flowing, which really shows that the Himalayas irrefutably are caused by a flow of energy this way, because there's this divide here. Divide. Colliding energies, they divide. And then the energy goes over here. Let's pull up, let's get the final product if I can now. Shalograms, maybe, nope. Himalayas. Okay. This one I redid. Okay. Make that full screen. Can I move around it? No. Maybe I can zoom in and move around it. Okay. Cool. So I concluded after using a difference, maybe I can find it. Earth magnetic anomaly map. This one. After using this one, I was able to come over here Bring in this. Somehow I managed to filter it also. Appearance, visible range. No. Something. There's a way to filter. Transparency. There we go. So by using this map as a reference guide, the other one is the actual map I was going by. Because it's 3D. It seems that 3D is kind of important in this map. Like if I zoom out, it gets very, it gets too not actually to scale and becomes kind of confusing. And also it looked a little more visible in this one, so again, I did selectively choose this one. I mean, it still has this, like this feature, let's find it. So here's the Himalayas. So we can see the Himalayas here, kind of ending at where this deep blue is, but beginning, it looks like here, around here. Yeah, here's Uzbekistan and here's Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan is where that is, yeah. So really, this is what's crazy. So what this shows, I believe, based on this right here, because of this junction, and also the Himalayas, I looked it up afterwards. I was like, you know, this, in order for this to be true, it would suggest not that, like, I was thinking like they propagated simultaneously like this from an explosive particle radiating, like psh, just shoving a wave pretty much, that then created an arc. And there it is. And that's kind of, and it just went under the surface. But it's way more complicated than that. But still, like, the same general thing is occurring where an energy flow came this way. And so I looked it up, and the mountains were built from west to east, or from, they start like here, from west to east. So that fits. And then like this shape here, so I know that by drawing over top it kind of hides the features. But the shape here is strongly suggestive of an outflow this way, rather than like a there's no source. Like this shows a source going to an outflow, which then drains this way. This is going this way. So we can kind of say, because this is going this way, it also supports that this ripple here, where it basically separated, like it's coming down a channel here, and if it goes to the right of this, like it's just like a dividing river. If it goes this way, it goes this way. If it's to this side, it goes this way, and it splits off. And over here, it ends up creating the Himalayas, and it may be because of Tamir Basin in some. It may still be related to this concept, where it's the anode membrane cathode. So here's Tamir Basin, here's Tibetan Plateau. So like the Tibetan Plateau is pretty much where this sort of straight line that doesn't seem quite Tamir Basin related. Like this doesn't seem like because of the basin, although maybe I'm kind of basing what I'm saying off the white rather than this blue section here. But let's see what else. Let me just. So this branches off this way, and then it spirals. Like it does look like it has like an eddy current to it. Let me. Right here. Like it tries to go this way. Maybe it did go this way even initially and piled up like underground, but didn't actually cause like caused an uplift, but not a didn't fracture the crust above for whatever like specific circumstances of this reason maybe where the energy could go that way, and maybe also because it didn't have an anode to like be its opposite where the Himalayas had wherever they are. It's so impossible to it's so easy to get lost in this. Oh my god, here they are. They're here somewhere. I think this blue spot is like where they end, like here. I think they come down here. They might even be here. It's so hard to tell, especially when it's missing data. For I don't know why exactly, just because we don't have it, but I don't know why we don't have it. We probably need to fly a plane over it or something. And then this low, it kind of continues. So I feel like it. Basically, this goes down a channel here. Like there's a channel this way that wraps around this way, and so that's why I drew this. Comes down this way, wraps around this way, and just kind of creates this section, but then also the for some reason I don't know why. I guess like it's creating a void, like it's an ether flow. It probably is like a subtle energy wind through the earth that's like pushing through, and maybe it pushed dense material and into this region, but created more of a low magnetic field anomaly. There's a magnetic anomaly in the negative direction where there's less material there than over here because it got shoved out of the way when this maybe a kind of vortex created like a little dimple there. And over here it came, but also there's another eddy over there in the Himalayas. Here. Okay, is that all? I was literally gonna start watching this in before. Yeah, so no, that's definitely not all. That's definitely not all. Okay. Definitely not all. Holy crap. Okay. Let me keep going. I'm like, is that all? Dear God. Okay. So something to do with energy propagating this way, producing the Himalayas. Folding layers as it goes. Creating just crystalline structures also. And then causing it to actually break through the surface because maybe there was already an opening where the Indian polygonal shape had began to separate from Asia due to the vortex weapon used in the vicinity. Maybe there was some beginnings of a ocean being formed around 500 million years ago that really never became an ocean because it became the Himalayas. But it was just like emissions of oceanic crust that kind of, and an opening was formed. And then the wind swept through and transformed some of that, as well as the crust itself in the region, to become crystalline Himalayan mountains, as talked about in other places and reacted to in other places. And it's certainly not talked about as if it was like my understanding I own or anything. But so then there's to go back to without it. Is this without it? No. Oh, I closed it. Derp. Okay. I was gonna talk about here. So I just kind of tried to pinpoint everything. Here's the Tamir Basin. Let's get the figure without that, maybe. Maybe that one is good enough. There's the Tamir. This is too zoomed in, but I was trying to piecemeal several together to create like four over top each other, but it didn't work. It was just too 3D at that point. But I was hoping I could. I did it with Africa pretty good once. So it's just too much data to like any like distortion. It's hard to add it together layer after layer and have it make sense still. So let me go back to the map so I can actually navigate. That's what I was trying to do. So then up here, this leads into here. So if this is like a particle, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, but then again, I thought this was Siberian traps up here. This is more like the Siberian traps like here. So it's kind of like maybe some kind of particle up here. Really, some major event went on here. Like, supernova, a supernova up here maybe, of a particle that maybe was. I'm just trying to think. Sorry. Essentially, like this happened 65 million years ago, thereabouts, and then this stuff down here, what these ripples passing through, and but the Siberian traps were like Permian, 300-ish million years. At the Permian Triassic boundary. So it's basically this event caused the Permian Triassic boundary. This supernova of this particle that was up here somewhere. This particle supernovaed underground within the Earth. It's not like it's at the surface of the Earth. Underground, causing energy flows. It's probably this particle got reached by from the Mediterranean, because essentially the vortex weapon that was used on ancient Dwarka caused energy flows to go through and carve into the Mediterranean, and then it began to actually allow oceanic crust from the mantle to come up and fill in the space. But then it came out to the Atlantic, and it went south between Africa and North America, and then between North America and South America, but it also went north, and so maybe it went north through past Iceland and so on until it reached a particle that was able to absorb the energy. This one, which then supernovaed at approximately 252 million years ago, according to radiometric dating, sending out these ripples that penetrated into this wall and broke through the boundary between this region and this region because they're different polygons. Sent the energy into here and it began to seep into this region. It's not like it's almost like lighting a fuse. Like it seeps in here, seeping in here, seeping down here, seeping down here, and then suddenly although I'm not sure if it really needs its own supernova. Like it may be that the Earth then subsequently supernovaed, and then the energy flows preferentially flowed within the Earth, within the layers of the Earth, not just outside of the Earth, but actually physically, like through layers of the Earth, caused to deflect sideways at times and stay within boundaries between layers and just flow like an oozing goo coming out of this object, slowly like emitting and causing it to also expand, and separation between the previously adjacent land masses. Not that this was, but just in general, like over in the Atlantic here. And then coming down this way, maybe like the second time it supernova, like the first time maybe it got to here-ish. And then the second time is when it really, or actually yeah, I don't know, something like that, where there was a Permian, Triassic, Siberian traps causing a supernova here in the first step after the Earth started to fracture at the Permian Triassic boundary, and then a second one that was the core of the Earth at the Cretaceous boundary. I think it's Cretaceous. The KT boundary, KPG boundary, whatever the one is. Also, I think it's also KT. Yeah. Okay, I was like, wait, Triassic, Tertiary. That's why they can say T again. And that's probably why they also say PG. The KPG boundary. Yeah. Okay. Was probably a system up here. That would be crazy if this might just be it, like right there. I'm not sure how prevalent things like that are on the Earth. Like, let's look around a little bit for other like large particle-esque systems. Really none, except for what's probably the actual core of the previous Earth, at least before it expanded. What was once maybe the core? I don't know exactly what it was. It does look pretty, pretty distinct. Like that also looks like maybe yellow is in the positive direction. Maybe here. This also looks literally like a ring structure, actually. Maybe there. Either way, I just found a crater. That's way too ring-like structure to not be one of the whatever we call a crater. Where am I looking? Also, this I noticed. This is real interesting. Notice how they're circular, they're rounded. Like the Himalayas are not like what the hell is that? What the like? It looks like someone took like a Photoshop, took a really big point size or whatever, and just took a brush and went boop. And there's just this huge thing. But if we look over here, like this to me it's kind of similar. This probably sheds light even on the Rakat structure. Very similar. Probably identical in nature. Where it's literally a particle that had like a dome, like a sphere particle that eroded away, leaving behind just like a cross section of it, just like Rakat structure. But other places around it look like they're probably similar in nature because of their roundedness. Like that's probably one, that's probably one, that's probably one, that's probably one, that's probably three. And then, where was I? That's probably one. Where is that? I really cannot pinpoint that. That's what's hard about this. Even looking at this, like where is... I can't click it. Let's find something I can actually go off of. This looks maybe... Because like the islands tend to not be actually the same shapes on the maps. Probably is that thing right there. So these probably are those islands. So even like this, the big circle has within it little circles. Big circle is like here then. Like this is part of the big circle right there. Or maybe not exactly the ring of it though, because I think the ring of it looked like it was kind of here, there. Maybe this is down to here. Maybe across there. It's hard to tell. That's probably too big. Let's see. Bathymetric. If I can get that map. And I have no idea how to. Something. I always forget this freaking thing. There it is. Da-da-da. Wonder if I just typed bathymetry. Probably not. So I want to look right here. Color shaded relief. It's got two little eyes. Not really visible. But that does look like the outline there. Maybe there too, actually, now I look at it. So that probably is it, that one out there. Oh yeah, there's those maybe. Oh yeah, it comes almost all the way up to that. Comes almost all the way up to it, yeah. Yeah, it goes here. Down maybe to there. Oh my god, it's huge. If it goes to there, like that. Maybe like that. Centered on there-ish. Literally with an internal one and or actually it goes even further. It really does reach that thing. Holy shit. This is probably the particle then. Some secondary system. Maybe. The one that's supernovaed. Maybe that one, maybe that one. Maybe just this one supernova. That one was okay. It didn't supernova, but either way, something. Actually, no. This one's got the ring. This one's got the ring. Why would it have that such a huge ring if it didn't just supernova? And just like the things I just looked at with the limestone in Florida, the there they are. These things, just like that. Do I still have that open even? It's sitting under the ground, and then it just supernovas, radiating energy, unless there's a channel that it can go through. Looks like it even caused like a outburst here of a different material, or causing a different material. I don't know. That picture is a little too small, and I don't feel like finding it in a bigger size again. Yeah, so that's my thoughts, is like the Permian Triassic was a supernova maybe caused by the energy actually reaching a particle over here. It supernovaed. It then started to just go through into this particle, cross boundaries, and then this system over here, maybe like just once it carved through this boundary, it just allowed material to freely flow, except where like the most resistance could be. It's pretty much where this polygon was, maybe. And then it just, when the supernova occurred, it just shoved it through even more and just really caused it to separate and cause whatever's going on here. So like down under, pile up of material, and then over here, uplift of mountains that was able to break through. Over here, maybe it didn't go up, maybe it just went sideways and stayed sideways enough to not really uplift, or even went downward. I don't know. Maybe it did go downward, down to the core kind of thing, creating like a connection in some sort of conduit for energy to flow. Because it seems like that kind of thing is a thing that happens like this. And definitely past society did that kind of thing. There's structures where they're definitely doing it. Like, what's his name? This guy, Praveen. He showed them for sure. I don't know where. What? Shivaling, probably. One of them, there's literally some kind of structure like this, let's say, and then in it is a crystal, or was a crystal type of structure like that thing, a Shiva lingam, a lingam. And then it was on one end, and there's that lingam, and then there's a wall surrounding the structure, all made of a certain material, with all like Christmas lights of a different material that were conductive, specifically, that were shaped like they were like channeling energy based on their shape. And then they had two of them, like an anode and a cathode, separated by a pool of water. I mean, for sure they were doing things of that nature. And probably because they knew that it was a thing of nature, like anode, cathode. I don't know what that would mean exactly, but like that it is a thing. So, what else? Maybe I'll go back here and see if there's any other thoughts that come to mind. I mean, this alone though is probably a pretty significant, I'd say. Here's Omsk, Russia. I found it. I just marked it because that's kind of where the paths meet, like here. Oh, I'm trying to move it like it's this. Right here. So there's kind of like a trend of upward facing lines and then sideward, and it looks like kind of here. It's like a location, but I don't see anything of like a particle type thing there. But so if I go to the, there's really not any geological distinct feature here that, I mean, obviously there are, that to me, look at all these holes. Oh my god, maybe I was wrong. I didn't even look. Oh my god, there's really not any it's freaking covered in all these holes. It's porous. Why are you so porous? How widespread is that porosity? It's all over the place. It's probably because of the freaking gap. The gap that the ether carved underneath. Ether flows just come through. Heat, ether. But so much heat that it's just heat. Like one atom, bunch of heat. One atom, bunch of heat. So much heat that it literally carved a void, relatively speaking, to a point where like the earth above is porous and like seeps water into it, maybe to a degree, or just shaped porously to have all these lakes. And although it's probably draining into the earth, honestly. I mean, it probably does that. It probably just does that. But so here's another thing. This is critical. I don't know what to make of it exactly. So if all the things I just said are true, where there's like a supernova here around the Permian, and then the supernova of the Earth around the Cretaceous causes a ripple this way, which separates here. There it is. And ignoring that it kind of has this here and a little missing here, and the Himalayas are really down here-ish. I mean, they're probably up here a bit too, but like definitely here. I'm not sure what's going on exactly for the bend to go like that, and then somehow the Himalayas are like off step down here. Like, why isn't the bend here? But my thoughts are maybe it like is deflected by something that we just don't know about that's here. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what's going on here, so I'm just allowing, in the lack of evidence of otherwise, the potential that somehow this like came also this way. Maybe it also ramped. Maybe it also caused it to start to ramp. I don't know. And just essentially created the Himalayas. But over here, if that's the case, it's very strange. It's very strange. Like, it basically would have came down here. Here's Tamir Basin. It would have came down to the west of Tamir Basin and even turn towards it, like literally to the west of Uzbekistan, Caspian Sea. So it's turning, the energy flows are literally like here. Let me see. Maybe, yeah, pretty much towards here. And here is the bend, I guess. Maybe here. I think there, maybe. There, maybe. It's also possible, like, energy flows wanted to go towards this way, but the vortex going on here was just kind of pushing stuff more out this way, around it. I don't know, that's the thought. But if it bends here and then it goes this way, like, what? It's kind of hidden. Let's look at the map some more. Moscow, so it would bend at Turkmenistan and go kind of across the Caspian Sea underneath it. And then above the North Sea, or the Black Sea, the North Sea, north of the Black Sea. This kind of goes this way. If we follow this path, obviously this is a lot of noise in it. But there's really nothing over here that's crazy either. Like, here's Belarus. Let's see. This is kind of where this is, all this stuff. So we would maybe expect to see some kind of evidence of something here. But it's not nearly as substantial as, like, it pretty much looks like everywhere else with a little bit of features that aren't present everywhere, but just pretty similar. So there's not much really to explain on the surface what's going on here. At least in that location, although if we do allow for this to be a sort of a splitting junction of the energy flows that were colliding into more substantial continental crust through carved pathways underneath the surface, then maybe that can be explained. I think that's what I was saying. Okay, do I stop there? Let me see. That's hour 37. So it's kind of odd, like this to me. Historically, I have said that the energy probably propagated created an arc coming from this direction, creating an arc inclusive of this region. Now I'm realizing it really does seem like the Himalayas are separated in a way, not completely, but in a way from this other one, where they really are sort of separate systems. Like, for sure, if the Himalayas formed west to east and it happened in this manner where it flowed across like this, then it, like, here's those mountains over here. So there's actually, at that point, there's a lot of flows more from, like, not this direction. This starts to somewhat go down here. This is, again, though, another bond, though, just like the one up by the Siberian Traps, where there's just this entry point where current can flow. There's another bond formed here between adjacent crust materials, allowing for exchange from the high pressure Himalayas Tibetan Plateau region into the relatively lower pressure anywhere that it didn't directly supernova into region. Especially, probably is just something different than India. Like India, maybe is just more dense crust than over here, so it's able to flow more easily into that region. But it does seem to have flowed perhaps under the ground in a way to like carve through it. I mean, maybe this literally propagated all the way, but then a bond was formed between the two units that basically allowed pressures were also going perpendicularly to the parallel flows, and they carved a channel through a point, kind of like uh, over here, somewhere over here, maybe that one, not sure. Let me pull it up. I was just checking another video out, and I was like, oh yeah. I don't know. I thought it was in this image. Maybe where it like goes into, or maybe it's here. Somewhere I thought it like goes into the there's Mjolnir. Mjolnir. Mjolnir? Mjolnir. Back to this area where this is where that crater thing is. Huge, so it's like this big. I'm just trying to think if it's like a corner particle along a corner, and there's, I don't know. Okay. In essence, though, able to enter in, maybe like there, even whatever. Goes through, like this was closed up. Energy's flowing along it, but also propagating into it, but not able to sever the two, but certainly applying a pressure until it does sever and creates like a gap. And it probably does it in a step-by-step type of way, like like this. Oops, it stayed rotated apparently. Like this. Like a step by step, like it starts like this, just carving through the weak points, but still around the particles, with the dense particles, relatively dense regions. It's not able to flow as easily, so it just carves through the channels it can. And then at some point, the magma can start to flow freely up from the mantle and fill in the space between, as well as cause a pressure to push the layers apart. Dudes. But here, like, it's kind of like the arc. So if we go back here, this arc, this portion here leading up to the kind of where it looks like maybe it created a sort of a vortex here. Some sort of a rotational. Where is that? Is Himalayas. Just south of Moscow, southeast of Moscow. Literally all the way over here. So this energy that caused the Himalayas that deflects at Turkmenistan and goes kind of this way and then wraps around And maybe it seemingly goes this way and then this way somehow. Or maybe it just goes this way but piles up and goes this way, but pressures are still kind of pushing it this way, probably from the rotation of the Earth, moving it outward. Maybe that's related. This one's going like towards the equator, where this one's going away from the equator. So because it's going towards the equator, it comes out of the Earth, where this one that's going away from the equator goes into the Earth, so it's not as detectable. It's noticeable maybe here that it created a void, but then it went down far enough to not really be as void-like in the features of the landscape over here, like leading over to Moscow. But here it's pretty much, it just created a depression that led to bodies of water pulling there. What was I saying? Like, that's crazy though. Like, the distance. That does make kind of sense though, that it, depending on the direction it goes, it would either go into the Earth or out away from the Earth. If it's, since it deflected off of some pivot point here, somewhere around here, I guess here probably, probably here. Where's the Euphrates? It doesn't show the whole. There it is. Oh. Starts in Turkey. So here. Just curious if there's any anomalies. It's hard to tell in this, obviously, and I'm probably making up half the shit I say, but even if a few of the things are worth considering, which I'm pretty sure they are, then I think it's alright. Okay, I don't want to sit here looking around too much. I think I'll stop recording and definitely not react to this. I was gonna actually. This is. I'll probably react to this later. It's just extremely good presentation and information that it just helps clarify things to hear basic concepts that are not really. Okay. Am I done? Maybe a quick glance at this. Something I don't think I mentioned is that water draining from the north side of the Himalayas, some of it at least, literally goes to the Tamir Basin. So it'll just go from the cathode to the anode. It's like an energy exchange is occurring through the water, transporting like particles too, even energy just flowing from the cathode to the anode, but probably also a cycle. So like that's one layer of it. where there's a flow of water across the membrane. Maybe underneath there's another flow. Just a thought. Let's see what else. Show this thread. I think I hit all the subjects here. I think that's cool. Alright then. Till next time. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it. I do. Peace.